It was a normal day on Earth. The sun rose over cities and towns, and people went about their daily lives, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. Everything was ordinary. But at the same time, something strange was happening. A signal, one unlike any the world had ever encountered, began to spread across the globe. It appeared on every screen, whether it was on a television, computer, or even the smallest mobile device. At first, people thought it was a glitch, a mistake, perhaps, the sort of thing that could be explained away. But as the seconds ticked by, it was clear that something far more sinister was unfolding. The broadcast began with a strange static noise before images started to flash across the screen. The colors were dark, almost suffocating, and then the message appeared. The images were unsettling. Wars, destruction, human suffering. But it wasn't just Earth's past that played on the screen. It was something far more chilling. The broadcast showed events from across the galaxy. It showed humanity's darkest moments. Battles where humans fought against alien invaders, scenes of betrayal, and the suffering humanity had endured at the hands of superior forces. The broadcast wasn't just a report of humanity's failures. It was a judgment. For those few moments, the world was transfixed. Some were horrified, some were confused, and others were terrified. But one thing was certain. The message was loud and clear. Earth was weak. Humanity was nothing but an insignificant speck in the grand design of the galaxy. They were naive, unaware of the true power that existed out there. And they had been outmatched, time and time again, by races far superior to them. People scrambled to understand what was happening. Was this a joke? Some said it was a hoax, a well-executed prank by a group of hackers. Others, more cautious, feared that it was something far worse, a signal from an enemy. But who would do such a thing? Why would anyone expose humanity's greatest vulnerabilities in such a cruel way? Alex Carter, a communications officer at one of the most secure government facilities in the world, was the first to recognize the gravity of the situation. As the broadcast continued to air, he watched from his control center, his face pale and his mind racing. Alex had spent his entire career dealing with signals and communications from across the galaxy, but he had never seen anything like this before. He quickly moved to alert his superiors, but before he could do so, something else happened. The broadcast shifted. Instead of showing images of destruction and suffering, it showed footage of alien ships, massive, intimidating vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. The ships hovered in space, seemingly watching Earth. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment. And then came the final message, delivered in a voice that seemed to echo from somewhere deep within space itself. You are nothing. Your time is over. Alex froze. The words reverberated in his mind. He had always known that humanity was not alone in the universe, but this was something else entirely. This wasn't just an attack. It was a declaration. Whoever had sent this message was powerful, and they were watching Earth. But the worst part, the broadcast ended abruptly, leaving more questions than answers. No one knew who had sent the message, why they had done it, or what it meant for humanity's future. Minutes later, Alex received a message, a warning, cryptic and anonymous. The message simply read, "This is only the beginning." A chill ran down Alex's spine. The words hung in the air, their meaning clear. Earth was about to face something unimaginable, and the broadcast was just the opening act. But what could humanity possibly do in response? What weapons, what defenses did they have to fight back against an unseen enemy that seemed so much more powerful than anything Earth had ever known? As Alex stared at the glowing screen, his mind raced. He knew that the next steps would be critical. If this was truly an attack from a superior alien force, Earth would need to prepare for war. But first, they needed to know who was behind the broadcast and why they had chosen Earth as their target. He quickly started working with his team to trace the signal's origin, but nothing made sense. The broadcast had come from nowhere, and there was no trace of where it had originated. It was as if it had been deliberately masked, hidden from any traceable path. As hours turned into days, the world reacted in different ways. Some governments began to take the threat seriously, calling for emergency meetings and military mobilizations. Others, in disbelief, continued to downplay the event as some kind of prank or error. But the one thing everyone could agree on was that Earth was no longer safe. The message from the broadcast lingered in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. "You are nothing." The words were chilling, but what did they truly mean? Were they a warning, a threat, or a promise? Alex couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just been thrust into something much larger than they had ever anticipated. It was as if the universe had taken notice of Earth, and it didn't like what it saw. The broadcast had exposed humanity's greatest vulnerabilities to the galaxy. Now Earth had to face its darkest truth. But was it too late? And who was watching, waiting, to see how humanity would respond? The clock was ticking, and the world had no idea what was coming next. As the days passed, the unsettling broadcast remained fresh in the minds of everyone on Earth. Governments, military leaders, and civilians were all shaken by the strange transmission that had appeared out of nowhere. It had come without warning, and its message had been clear. Earth was weak, insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. No one knew who was behind it, but the chilling final words lingered like a shadow, refusing to fade away. "You are nothing. Your time is over." The world, for the first time in history, began to unite in fear. Though people from different countries, religions, and cultures had often struggled to find common ground, this one event had shaken everyone to the core. Suddenly, the differences between nations seemed small and insignificant compared to the threat they now faced. Alex Carter, the communications officer who had first recognized the severity of the broadcast, found himself at the center of the growing storm. Despite his experience in dealing with interstellar signals, he knew that this was something entirely different, something far more dangerous than any alien contact he had encountered before. Alex had spent his entire career preparing for the possibility of encountering alien life, but nothing had prepared him for this. He sat in a dark room late one evening, staring at the glowing screens in front of him, trying to make sense of the chaos. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of computers processing the data. Alex had been working tirelessly with his team, trying to trace the source of the mysterious broadcast. But every time they thought they were close, the trail would vanish. It was as if the broadcast had been deliberately designed to leave no trace, to remain hidden in the shadows. But even as the world's governments scrambled to respond to the crisis, Alex could sense something else was at play. There was a quiet undercurrent of fear and uncertainty. He wasn't the only one who had seen the truth in the broadcast. Others had started to speak of it too. The news channels began to report on the alien ships that had appeared on the screens, images of their massive forms hovering above Earth. The images were grainy, distant, but unmistakable. These ships were real, and they were watching. The military leaders of various nations began to meet in secret, behind closed doors. The most powerful people on Earth discussed what to do. Was this the beginning of an invasion? If so, what weapons did they have to fight back? Their most advanced spacecraft could barely match the power of the alien vessels that had been shown in the broadcast. Earth's greatest defense systems were outdated, and the technology they had was no match for what the aliens likely possessed. But there was something else that kept Alex up at night. The broadcast hadn't just shown images of alien ships and human suffering. It had also revealed the dark history of Earth. It had shown humanity's wars, betrayals, and the countless times they had been beaten down by forces far stronger than them. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the broadcast wasn't just about showing humanity's weakness. It was an invitation. It was a test. The mysterious message, "This is only the beginning," kept repeating in Alex's mind. Who had sent it? And what did it mean? Was this a warning of something worse to come, or was it a declaration of intent? As the days dragged on, things began to escalate. More and more strange signals began to appear. They were brief, cryptic, and often seemed to lead nowhere. But one thing was clear. Whoever had sent the original broadcast was not finished, and Earth was at the center of their attention. In the meantime, public panic began to spread. People took to the streets, searching for answers. Many believed that Earth was doomed. Others felt that humanity had no place in the galaxy, that their time had passed. Rumors spread that the aliens were already preparing to invade, and some even believed that the broadcast had been a signal to begin their assault. The governments tried to calm the public, but it was clear that there was no easy answer to the problem. Alex, still working in the shadows, had come to a horrifying realization. The broadcast had shown Earth's vulnerability in such a way that there was no denying it. Humanity was not ready to defend itself against a galactic-scale threat. Earth had been left in the dark, unaware of the true scope of the universe and its dangers. And now, the time had come for humanity to face the consequences. But despite all the fear and uncertainty, Alex also felt something else stirring deep inside him. It wasn't just fear, it was determination. He couldn't let Earth crumble. He wouldn't let humanity be forgotten. The broadcast had shown humanity's worst moments, but Alex knew that Earth had more to offer. He knew that there was more to humanity than the darkness they had been shown. It was time for humanity to prove that they were more than just an easy target for the powerful forces of the galaxy. But how could they fight back? The answer was simple, yet terrifying. If humanity was to survive, they would need to unite, to rise above their flaws, and face whatever was coming head-on. But even as Alex began to formulate a plan, he couldn't help but wonder, was it already too late? Back in the control room, Alex's team had finally managed to trace a small part of the signal's origin. It had come from an uncharted sector of space, far beyond the reaches of any human exploration. But the data they had uncovered led to one chilling conclusion. The aliens were not just watching Earth. They were preparing something far more dangerous. The first wave of attacks had not yet begun, but Alex could feel it coming. Humanity's darkest hour was drawing near, and the countdown had already started. Suspense. The question now became, could humanity prepare in time? Was there any hope left for Earth, or would they be swept away by forces far beyond their comprehension? And most importantly, who were these beings that had exposed humanity's weaknesses and promised that their time was over? The clock was ticking, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. In the days that followed, an eerie calm settled over Earth. Governments scrambled to prepare for the unknown, but there was little they could do. The broadcast had disrupted everything. The military was mobilizing, but their advanced fleets and weapons systems seemed insufficient against the overwhelming force the alien ships had shown. No one knew how to fight an enemy they couldn't even see in full. Alex Carter, however, had no time for fear. He was consumed by the broadcast. Every moment of the footage had been burned into his memory, and each passing second felt like a countdown to the inevitable. His mind raced as he reviewed the data they had managed to collect. The aliens, whoever they were, had already begun moving toward Earth. But there was something about the broadcast that didn't sit right with him. It wasn't just the message of humanity's weakness. It was something deeper, something more subtle. The images of Earth's darkest moments, wars, betrayals, and suffering, had been carefully chosen, almost like someone had been watching. Had they known that humanity's history was filled with such turmoil? Or was this simply part of the alien strategy to break Earth's spirit before the real battle began? The questions haunted Alex. He spent long hours in the control room, poring over the data, but there was little to go on. The broadcast had come from an unknown location deep within the galaxy, and though they had pinpointed its origin, they still had no idea who had sent it. It felt like a trap, but there was no way to know for sure. Meanwhile, across Earth, things were growing tense. The public's fear was palpable. The media spread rumors of impending invasion, while the world's leaders struggled to make sense of the threat. People began to look for answers, but there was no clear explanation for what had happened. The broadcast hadn't been just a message, it was a statement. Earth was being judged, and humanity was left to wonder whether it was too late to change their fate. In private, Alex began to prepare for the worst. There were whispers of military action, of Earth's leaders meeting with scientists, engineers, and strategists to devise a countermeasure. But the truth was, Earth's weapons were old. The broadcast had made it painfully clear. Humanity had been left behind, outclassed by forces they couldn't even comprehend. One night, as Alex sat alone in the control room, staring at the faint glow of his screens, a new message appeared on the terminal. It was a simple string of code, unrecognizable to anyone except for a few of Earth's most skilled hackers. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he quickly ran the decryption software. What appeared on the screen left him speechless. The message was from an unknown source, but it wasn't the same as the original broadcast. This one was different. It was a warning, a cryptic message that read, "The storm approaches. Prepare yourselves. You have one chance. Do not fail." The words sent a chill down his spine. Who had sent this message? And why now? It didn't answer any of the questions he had about the alien broadcast, but it was clear that someone, or something, was trying to communicate with humanity. Alex's mind raced. Could this be another alien faction trying to warn Earth? Or perhaps it was a message from someone within the galaxy, a race sympathetic to humanity's plight. Or was it some kind of trap, designed to lead them into false hope before the real attack? Despite the uncertainty, Alex knew that time was running out. The clock was ticking. The broadcast had already exposed Earth's vulnerabilities, and now Earth had to act. There was no time to waste. Whatever this new message meant, it was clear that Earth couldn't afford to wait any longer. He sent the decrypted message to the highest-ranking military officials on Earth, but Alex had a sense that the response would come too late. The true challenge wasn't just a matter of weapons or strategies. It was about finding humanity's strength, something that the galaxy had never seen before. But how could Earth find that strength when they had been pushed to the brink of extinction? Alex knew that whatever was coming would require more than just military might. The fate of Earth would depend on humanity's ability to unite, to find the courage to rise above their history of division and fear. But could they do it? Would they even have the time? The days after the cryptic message left Earth's leaders in turmoil. There was no clear answer to the source or purpose of the warning, but one thing was certain. Humanity had only one chance to prepare for what was coming. Tensions were at an all-time high, and the world's military forces began to consolidate, pooling all available resources for defense. But even as they scrambled to arm themselves, something far worse was already unfolding in space. Alex Carter, still deeply shaken by the message, found himself working around the clock. The decryption team had been in touch with the most advanced communication specialists, attempting to trace the signal. Still, no one had a clear explanation for the sudden warning, let alone the alien broadcast. Time seemed to be slipping through their fingers. Then the unthinkable happened. The first wave of alien ships appeared on the edge of Earth's orbit, seemingly out of nowhere. They arrived silently, no warning, no heralding force. The ships were massive, their dark forms blocking out the stars. Alex stared at the images transmitted from Earth's satellite network, his heart racing in his chest. These were not the ships shown in the broadcast, but they were every bit as terrifying. It was the first time humanity had come face to face with an enemy that wasn't a figment of science fiction. The alien fleet hovered above Earth like a storm cloud, ominous and unyielding. At first, they did nothing. They just watched. But their presence alone sent waves of panic rippling across the globe. Military forces were immediately deployed, but there was nothing they could do. The alien ships were far more advanced, and their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Earth's most sophisticated weapons systems could barely scratch their hulking exteriors. The sight of Earth's military scrambling to defend itself against such overwhelming force felt like a grim reminder of the message sent in the broadcast. Humanity was weak, naive, and helpless in the face of galactic powers. Alex was in constant contact with the command center, his mind racing as he watched the alien ships hover above Earth. Every minute felt like an eternity. The countdown was real now. The clock was ticking, and the first wave had arrived. While Earth's military prepared for the worst, something strange happened. The alien ships, despite their terrifying presence, made no attempt to attack. They merely stayed in place, as if waiting. As the hours passed, Alex began to feel a gnawing sense of unease. Was this a show of force? A demonstration to remind Earth of its powerlessness, or was something more sinister at play? Whatever the case, humanity could not afford to waste time. Alex knew that if they didn't act soon, the alien fleet would make its move. He felt an overwhelming responsibility. The cryptic message, the broadcast, the alien ships. It was all connected. But how? What were they waiting for? The tension was unbearable. Earth's defenses were now fully mobilized, but the alien ships were so far out of reach, their intentions unclear. It was as if they were playing a game, one where humanity didn't even know the rules. And yet, Alex could feel something stirring deep inside him. If the aliens were waiting, maybe humanity still had a chance. But if they were not careful, that chance would slip away in an instant. The world held its breath as the first wave of alien ships remained locked in place, watching Earth, waiting for something. And in that moment, it became clear, this was not just a fight for survival. This was a battle for humanity's very soul. Alex looked out of the control room window, his mind whirling with possibilities. The human race had faced extinction before, but never like this. Never from an enemy that seemed so far beyond their understanding. If humanity was going to stand a chance, they had to find something more than military might. They needed a reason to fight, a reason to win. But what could that reason be? Suspense. The aliens were watching, waiting. What did they want? Why were they holding back? And would humanity be able to find the strength to resist the looming threat? Or would they crumble under the weight of an enemy they couldn't even begin to understand? The storm was getting closer. The battle for Earth had begun. As the days passed, the alien fleet remained above Earth, a looming shadow that struck fear into the hearts of every human. The initial confusion began to fade, replaced by an undercurrent of panic. Humanity was at its most vulnerable. The first wave of ships was only a fraction of the true power the aliens possessed. Earth's military forces continued to scramble, but their efforts were ineffective, their weapons useless against the vast superiority of the enemy. Yet amid the chaos, something strange began to happen. People from all walks of life started to look inward. The idea that humanity had been weak and helpless, as shown in the broadcast, began to be challenged. Earth was far from perfect, but it was resilient. Humans had faced darkness before, wars, plagues, and suffering. They had always managed to rise, sometimes against the odds. This time, however, the stakes were higher than ever before. Alex Carter had been tirelessly working with Earth's top military strategists, and while he couldn't yet figure out the alien fleet's plans, he had a sinking feeling that the true battle wasn't going to be won with weapons or technology alone. It would come down to something else, something the aliens had underestimated: humanity's will to survive, to innovate, and to fight back. It was in a secret meeting late one night that Alex finally came to a realization. He had been reading through classified military reports when one line caught his eye. It was an obscure reference to a long-forgotten project. An experimental weapon, a last resort option developed during the Cold War era. The project had been abandoned decades ago, its details kept under wraps, even from the public. But now, as the alien threat loomed large, that project might be humanity's only hope. The weapon was a concept designed to tap into human creativity, something no alien force could predict. It wasn't just a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a tool for innovation, a device that could amplify human ingenuity. The problem was that it had never been fully tested. The project had been shelved because it was deemed impractical. But with the aliens above them, Earth had no choice but to consider every possibility. Alex couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. If there was any chance to fight back, it would be through humanity's unique ability to adapt, to think outside the box, and to create something from nothing. The aliens, for all their power, might have underestimated this very thing. He contacted the leaders of the world's most advanced scientific and military teams. They would have to work together, pooling all available resources to bring this forgotten weapon to life. But time was short. Every passing hour meant the alien fleet could strike at any moment, and the idea of Earth's future seemed fragile at best. Across the globe, the same message was beginning to spread. The aliens may have thought Earth weak, but they had made one grave mistake. They had ignored the true power of humanity. From the leaders of governments to the ordinary citizens, there was a new sense of determination. They wouldn't just roll over and die. They would fight, not with brute strength alone, but with the very thing that had driven humanity's greatest achievements: their creativity, their resilience, their unyielding spirit. Meanwhile, the alien fleet continued to hover ominously above Earth. They still hadn't made a move. Were they waiting for humanity to make the first strike? Or was it all part of a larger strategy, to exhaust Earth's defenses before they unleashed their true power? But as the days dragged on, humanity was preparing for something far greater. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about turning the tide. There was an ancient saying that humanity had often ignored in the face of overwhelming odds: never underestimate the power of a determined mind. Now it seemed that might be their only chance. Suspense. Would humanity's ingenuity be enough to overcome the superior alien forces? Could the weapon, the project thought to be a relic, hold the key to turning the tide of the war? And as the alien fleet continued to observe Earth, waiting for the inevitable confrontation, the clock was ticking. Humanity's final chance to survive and fight back was drawing nearer. But would they be ready? The time had come. The long days of uncertainty and preparation had reached their final hour. The alien fleet remained in place, seemingly undeterred by the frantic efforts of Earth's forces. Their ships loomed above, massive and unyielding, casting a long shadow over the planet. It was as if the invaders were content to watch, to wait. And yet, that waiting was the most terrifying thing of all. Alex Carter stood in the control room, his gaze fixed on the enormous digital screens before him. The countdown had begun. The weapon, the experimental project that had once been dismissed as too dangerous and impractical, was now Earth's only hope. The work of countless scientists, engineers, and soldiers had brought it to life, and Alex knew that it would either be humanity's salvation or its final failure. He could hear the quiet hum of the facility around him, the intense focus of every person involved. The air was thick with anticipation. Humanity was preparing to make its stand, to challenge the alien fleet with everything it had left. The weapon, now fully operational, was ready, but there was no turning back. The broadcast, the one that had haunted Alex's thoughts since it first appeared, played in his mind once again. The aliens had thought they were the superior force. They had looked down on Earth, laughed at its perceived weakness, and underestimated its potential. But they had missed one crucial element. They had missed the heart of humanity. Alex turned to the technician beside him. "Is everything in place?" he asked, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of the moment. "Yes, Commander," the technician replied, eyes glued to the screens. "The system is online, and all systems are green. We're ready to fire." The final decision was his. He nodded slowly, taking in the weight of what he was about to do. This was the moment that would define Earth's fate. With a deep breath, Alex pressed the button. A pulse of energy surged through the weapon, spreading across the planet's surface, and the sky above Earth seemed to crackle with power. It was a signal. The alien ships, who had been observing Earth, now detected the sudden surge of energy. They had expected humanity to cower, to submit to their superior might. But what they saw instead was a force born from the heart of every human being, a force that had been lying dormant for far too long. For the first time since the broadcast had appeared, the alien ships reacted. The lead vessel, enormous and black as night, began to move, slowly at first, then faster as if responding to the challenge. The battle was about to begin. But the surprise on the aliens' part was evident. They had expected to face Earth's military might, to engage in a traditional war of force and technology. They had not expected humanity's true weapon, creativity, unity, and the will to fight for survival. The weapon, an intricate system of human innovation, was not a traditional weapon at all. Instead of merely firing destructive energy, it created a cascade of powerful pulses, disrupting the alien ship systems. Their advanced technology, built on predictable, rigid designs, began to malfunction. Their shields flickered, weapons misfired, their control systems grew erratic. But the aliens didn't give up. Their forces surged forward, attacking Earth with everything they had. Yet with each attack, Earth's weapon adapted, learning and evolving, adjusting itself to the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. The battle raged on. Humanity's forces fought alongside the weapon, every human, soldier and civilian alike, united in a way never seen before. The streets filled with the echoes of determination. Cities turned into fortresses, and each person who had once doubted humanity's resilience now stood strong. It was no longer just a battle against the aliens. It was a battle for the very soul of humanity.